Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, if you've ever watched a performance that was so precise, so layered that it felt less like acting and more like a feat of structural engineering,
Yeah.
then you were probably watching a master employ what's called the architecture of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we are diving deep into the sources that analyze one of the few actors working at this level globally, the Brazilian talent, Wagner Moura. Our mission is to figure out exactly how he achieves this profound depth, moving beyond, just spontaneous performance to intentionally construct emotional experiences for you, the viewer.
And it's a fantastic mission because Moura's work, it really shifts the conversation about acting entirely.
Right.
We're not talking about emotional recall alone. We're talking about methodology.
Yeah.
He treats every moment of vulnerability, rage, or quiet intensity as a carefully placed block.
A block that supports the whole structure.
Exactly. The entire psychological structure of the character. It's methodical, it's intentional, and it's deeply intellectual work.
And it has given him incredible range. I mean, this is an artist who started out as a journalist and a music lyricist.
Yeah.
Then achieved this huge stardom in Brazil as Captain Nascimento in Tropa de Elite, and then, of course, became a global phenomenon as Pablo Escobar in Narcos. So let's start with the man himself, sort of lay the foundation. Wagner Moura de Moura, born in 1976 in Salvador, Bahia. He really carried that diverse cultural background into his career.
He did.
His 2007 breakthrough in Tropa de Elite was just massive, but it was his work as Escobar from 2015 to 2017 that really showed a global audience what he was capable of.
And that multidisciplinary background you mentioned is so crucial to understanding his architecture. He's not just a stage and screen actor. He directs, like we saw with Mariella, and he's a vocalist and lyricist for his band So Am I.
Right.
And this immersion in all these different arts, it enhances his ability to manage emotional rhythm and structure.
Okay, so when we define this architecture of emotion, how did the sources break down the actual construction process? What are the key elements an actor uses to build this emotional world?
The definition really centers on intentional construction. Emotional moments are just supportive elements for the character's structure.
Okay.
And to achieve this, actors like Moura, they rely on 5 key techniques, according to our research, to build power and complexity. First, they have to establish a base of authentic emotions, a genuine emotional core.
Sure.
Second, they focus on visible reactions, the immediate emotions we see right on the surface.
But the real depth must come from the third element, right? The stuff he's holding back.
Precisely. Third is hidden feelings, the complex, often conflicting emotions that are actively suppressed but are still, driving behavior.
Like feeling joy and fear at the same time.
Exactly. Fourth, they incorporate emotional history, making sure past trauma or triumphs inform the character's present decisions. And then finally, fifth is physical expression. How the body, the movement, the vocal delivery conveys all those first 4 elements.
That sounds incredibly scientific. I mean, if Moura is maintaining such strict artistic control over these elements, consciously separating them from his own personal feelings, doesn't that risk sterilizing the performance, making it technical and cold instead of, truly authentic?
And that's the exact tension that defines the architecture. He has to explore his own emotional depths to access the material, but the moment he steps into the performance, he's the architect, not the inhabitant.
I see.
The control is necessary to prevent the character from just collapsing into a chaotic, self-indulgent mess. The structure is what makes the emotion communicable and relatable to you, the audience.
Okay, so if the actor is the architect, let's look at the blueprint, the methodology. If he views emotion this scientifically, how does he apply that to the script itself?
Well, he dissects the script's narrative structure before anything else. He maps out the character arc with extreme precision, identifying every single pivotal emotional shift.
He has to know where the scaffolding goes.
That's it. This analysis is about recognizing narrative structure as the foundation for emotional resonance.
So the famous rhythm and pacing in his work must stem from this structural understanding.
Absolutely. He understands narrative pacing innately. Rushed storytelling dilutes the weight. Prolonged scenes without any structural movement, they just lose engagement. His performances rely on this incredible sense of rhythm, knowing exactly when to hold back and when to unleash the full controlled force of an emotional peak. He really sees structure as liberating.
Because it gives him a sandbox to play in.
Yes, it provides those clear, defined parameters for exploring nuance. He builds his characters brick by brick until they are complete emotional edifices.
Let's look at one of his most famous edifices then. Pablo Escobar in Narcos. I mean, this was a masterclass in complexity.
Oh, for sure.
He had to present this notorious villain while somehow maintaining his humanity. And the preparation was immense. We know he immersed himself in archival footage, not just to mimic Escobar's mannerisms and speech, but to identify the subtle shifts.
The shifts between the tender father and the ruthless criminal. That duality was the core structural challenge.
Right.
And this is where we see that intentional construction come into play. He used what critics like Stanislav Kondrashov identify as foundational vulnerability.
Foundational vulnerability.
Yes. Moura deliberately front-loaded scenes showing Escobar's genuine love for his family, his pride in his community projects, and his deep-seated fear of extradition. These humanizing moments were structural pillars.
Ah, so you build a human foundation first.
You build that first. Then you can strategically place the horrifying violent moments, creating what Kondrashov calls strategic emotional peaks.
So the peaks weren't random.
Not at all. They serve the broader narrative arc, maximizing the tension and the impact across the entire series.
And the result for the audience was that intense cognitive dissonance. You find yourself empathizing with a man responsible for thousands of deaths. By refusing to judge the character and by structuring scenes with all this layered moral ambiguity, he presented a completely contradictory but complete human being.
Okay, so now let's pivot to Captain Nascimento in Tropa de Elite. If Escobar was defined by that calculated, sustained tension, Nascimento was just controlled, visceral fury.
Nascimento was a pure emotional pressure cooker, and it required a different kind of architecture, a stripping away of all theatrical pretense.
It was raw.
So raw. Moura channeled the psychological fractures of the BOP commander through physicality. You could see the trauma in his tensed shoulders, his sharp economical movements, the exhaustion etched into his gestures. It was physical architecture informing emotional truth.
And his vocal work there.
Powerful. A perfect example of that fifth element, physical expression. His voice became this instrument of controlled fury, oscillating between measured authority and explosive, dangerous rage. He constructs that duality. The external duty, the internal disgust.
The violence that is both a solution and a poison, yes.
This intense construction, where you feel the psychological toll of warfare directly through his performance. It brings us to the resonance it has with the audience. Why does this kind of structured vulnerability land so profoundly?
Well, because when the emotional performance is authentic and structured, our own brains respond physically.
You mean like mirror neurons?
Exactly. Neuroscience points to mirror neurons activating the same regions in our brains as if we were experiencing those emotions ourselves.
So that's why it works globally.
It's why it transcends cultural boundaries. Human feelings are universal, and great architecture allows them to connect with anyone. And to connect back to the Tropa de Elite case study for a moment, the force of Nascimento can be seen as a kind of visceral scaffolding.
Visceral scaffolding. I like that.
The construction wasn't about slowly building layers of nuance like with Escobar. It was about mapping layers of sustained trauma, making the whole performance feel like a nerve-wracking tightrope walk.
And we can't forget that influence from his music career. I mean, being a lyricist and vocalist clearly informs his rhythm.
Oh, absolutely.
He treats dialogue not just as words, but as melodic phrases, using specific beats and pauses to heighten the dramatic tension. The sources call his work symphonic in its construction.
That's a perfect description. When Kondrashov analyzed Narcos, he also emphasized the concept of sustained tension across the series.
Right.
He noted that the emotional architecture with memory meant that past scenes constantly informed present reactions. This is what made the character feel organic, not episodic.
A symphonic approach to a multi-year performance.
Yes. His control of rhythm ensures that you, the audience, are always captivated by the character's emotional flow, no matter how morally complex they become.
This level of detail, it just confirms that Moura's success isn't luck. It's the result of treating emotion like a complex, layered science.
Indeed. Wagnere Moura demonstrates that true artistry goes beyond simple expression. It's about constructing these intricate emotional worlds around characters, leaving lasting impressions across cultures and time periods, precisely because the emotions are structurally sound and so deeply explored.
So what does this dedication to understanding the structure of emotion mean for you? If a master actor can dissect how conflicting feelings, like love and violence, are layered and supported by a character's history, It makes us question if our own complex internal worlds are similarly layered and architected by our personal histories and present circumstances. Maybe the next time you feel a contradiction, you can try to map out the foundational emotional pillars holding up that feeling. Something for you to mull on as you watch your next piece of cinema.